Guild Xayah never left, so it's time to take a look at the updated variation of this comp so you can get that first place. This comp focuses on the Guild and Ragewing traits together with the two core units Xayah and Shyvana. Xayah is your primary carry that will deal with enemy frontliners, while Shyvana crashes into enemy backlines to burn them down. Your first item priority should be a Gwynsu's Rageblade. Your second item should be an offensive damage item like a Giant Slayer or an Infinity Edge. And after that you want to go for a defensive item in Quicksilver for Xayah or a Morello's for Shyvana. The strength of this comp is just how versatile it is. You have access to the entire enemy team whether it's at the front or the backline. But since all the units in play are strong on their own and can fit lots of other comps too, chances are high that you might get contested and won't find those unit upgrades. This is a default leveling comp, meaning it doesn't rely on any 3-star units and you'll level up at a regular pace. As usual, you'll stabilize at level 7 by finding a copy of your main carry Xayah. At level 8 you want to spend most of your gold to upgrade your team as well as finding other high cost units like Bard and more importantly Shyvana. Your final comp will consist of Xayah, Shyvana, Jace, Bard, Hecarim, Rakan and Twitch. Your best chance to win with this comp is by seeing the Loot Master Augment as a first augment choice. That's because you'll have enough time to drop additional item components which will ultimately put your board ahead of any other boards in the lobby, as long as you reach the late game. Therefore, maintaining a win streak is almost just as important, as you'll also need lots of gold and time to find all your 4-cost units. So always try to play the strongest board and build around the guild units Twitch and Zippy in your mid game. Having a Gwynsu's Rageblade on Xayah and a Mobalytics on Shyvana is also crucial, as these items synergize perfectly with their traits and their abilities. To seal up that first place though, you really need to 2-star all your high cost units. If you've done that, the last objective you want to reach is saving up gold for level 9 and add in the high cost utility unit Soraka. Since there are 2 low cost swift shot units in the game, we ideally want to start the game with Ezreal and Twitch on our board. Twitch is part of our default comp, but to increase your team's strength we want to add in a temporary carry and item holder in Ezreal, and any type of frontliners. These can either be those Guardians in Leona and Nasus, Brawlers in Skarner and Malphite, or Cavaliers in Sejuani and Rel. As for your mid game, you can further build into any of the frontliners you're running. The easiest would be to add in 2 more Guardians with Rakan and either Zac or Braum. Finding an early copy of your main carry Xayah or the Guild Dragon Zippy however is really what we're looking for. In the late game, most of the comp is finished by now, and you only miss your 4-cost frontliners Hecarim and Jace, as well as your higher cost units Bard and Shyvana. Replacement options are always great, as they'll make you play around what the game offers you, so let us break down this comp into those 3 cores. Twitch, Bard and Jace form our guild core. Xayah and Shyvana are our carries and Ragewing core, and Rakan and Hecarim are the trait fillers for our carries. For your guild core, you can look to play the other 8-cost Dragon Shyvana, as well as Ezreal for Tempest 4 and more swift shots. A much weaker replacement would be if you run the 2 1-cost Ragewings Set and Senna to activate the highest ceiling of Ragewing. As for those carries, you preferably don't want to replace these, but since Shyvana can be really hard to find sometimes, you'll also do okay by running the 6-cost Dragon Zippy, who will also activate Guild 6. For the trait fillers, you'll have a couple of good options to consider, but what you can always do is simply throw in higher cost units like Soraka and Yasuo, or just run a full swift shot backline with Ezreal and Varus. Let's talk about augments, and it goes without saying that Guild, Heart, Crest or Crown are going to be instant picks. Place the emblem on your main carry Xayah by replacing her defensive item to give her double the guild bonus. Another S tier augment for this comp though is Loot Master. This augment gives you a random item component every 4 rounds. All you have to do is have at least 2 guild active, which will be the case all game long. New Recruit is also one of the best augments for this comp as it increases your team size. This means you can slot in another guild unit to activate a higher ceiling of bonus stats for your team. Other augments that are slightly weaker but still instant grabs are Weak Spot, Gear Upgrades or Pandora's Bench to help find Shyvana faster. And never be afraid to pick up an augment that gives a generic upgrade to your team. Augments like a component grab bag, portable forge, thrill of the hunt, second wind or even a sunfire board are all decent choices. Moving on to our items. Xayah is your main carry and her best in slot is still a Gwynsu's Rageblade, a Giant Slayer and a Quicksilver. Other strong items include an Infinity Edge, a Runar's Hurricane or a Static Shiv to shred enemy magic resistance. Shyvana is your secondary carry and her itemization is pretty flexible. However, her best in slot consists of a Mobalytics, an Archangel's Staff as well as an Ionic Spark. Other strong item options on her are a Jeweled Gauntlet in combination with Infinity Edge to ensure her ability crits, or even a Hand of Justice for some more sustain. Jace and Bard are the 2 guild units in this comp that can make the most use of our leftover items. You want to put anything tank related on your second shapeshifter and everything utility or mana on Bard. When you get to that treasure dragon, make sure you use this stage to find a final item for Xayah, or the remaining items for your secondary carry Shyvana. When it comes to spatulas, the only buildable spatulas that'll be worth considering are a Cavalier Spat or a Swift Shot Spat. A second Cavalier strengthens our frontline defense while a Swift Shot Spat increases the damage of our main carry. Whichever one you go for though, you should put the spatula on the guild frontliner Jace. Let's talk about strategy now. The best starter for this comp is by running the early game swift shot duo Ezreal and Twitch. Since your late game board isn't very cheap, you should try and go on a win streak by leveling up to 4 at stage 2-1 and adding in low cost Guardian frontliners like Leona and Nasus. Use Ezreal as an early item holder for Xayah, so build a Giant Slayer or a Rageblade first and use Nasus to hold items for Shyvana. Level up to 6 at 3-2 and keep up your win streak by slamming items on your item holders Ezreal and Nasus. Make use of BF swords for another strong offensive item in a Giant Slayer, or use something that buffs up your entire team like an Ionic Spark. Continue making your team stronger by adding in more Guardians so that Nasus can apply the Morello's Burn as well as shred enemy resistances with Ionic Spark for a longer duration. If you do see an early copy of Zippy, immediately get rid of Leona and Nasus and transition those items onto the Guild Dragon. Use the gold you saved up and rush to level 7 at 4-1. If you start to lose your rounds, you can roll a little bit to pick up your core 4-cost units Xayah, Jace and Hecarim. If you haven't transitioned your items from your early item holders, this is the time to do it, so swap out Ezreal for Xayah and Braum for Jace or Hecarim. A 1-star copy of your 4 costs should be enough to keep that win streak going, as long as you can also add in more guild, with Zippy obviously being the best choice here. That being said, your board at level 7 should include your 2 4-cost carries as well as the Guild Dragon Zippy as an item holder for Shyvana. Then you want to save up your gold again and slowly level up to 8 for those final upgrades. As for items, choose to build our main carry's last item in Quicksilver, or just any other strong offensive items like Archangel's Staff. Level up to 8 at 5-1 and roll down to complete your team by hitting all of those missing upgrades, as well as finding your red dragon Shyvana. Other than that, you'll look to 2-star all your 4 costs Xayah, Jace and Hecarim. As soon as you start win streaking again, start saving up gold for a final roll down, or use it to get your last power spike by rushing to level 9. Finally, let's quickly take a look at the positioning of this comp, which stays pretty static. Your tank units are in front and your damage units are at the back. You want to keep the swift shot duo next to each other so that Twitch can shred enemy resistances to make Xayah's feathers deal ultimately more damage. Otherwise, you only really need to pay attention if you face enemy assassins, and if that's the case, simply position Rakan in front of her. That will give you everything you need to know on how to win with our Guild Xayah 2.0 comp. Remember to check out all of the best and newest meta team comps as well as other full expert video guides over on our website.